Last night's episode of This Is Us was the one we've all been waiting for and dreading, and boy, did it deliver. I'm Lola Ogunike, and we're here to talk about Jack's death and everything else that happened in the big Super Bowl episode of This Is Us. Here with me to break it all down and hopefully not break down in tears are executive editor at People, Kate Coyne, executive editor at large at Entertainment Weekly, and host of EW Morning Live on SiriusXM, Dalton Ross, and Entertainment Weekly TV critic Kristen Baldwin. Okay, guys, before we dive into the details, now that we know how Jack died from a heart attack caused by smoke inhalation complications, what was your overall reaction to this episode?
I honestly felt, right now I feel a little bit relieved. Like, it's okay. Like, we made it. Like, it's over. He's dead. We already knew he was dead, but now we know how it happened. And I'm a little bit glad that it's behind me now, and that we know everything we need to know so far about. I'm also relieved that he didn't burn to a crisp. I have to say, like, I was a little I was finding something in that to be very gruesome to get my head around, and so I'm grateful that it played out, frankly, exactly the way it did. I'm glad for all the hospital scenes. I'm glad it wasn't just, an inferno engulfed him and then that was the end of it. Yes. I'm happy we had a little more semblance of sort of some closure, not really, but a little bit.
Yeah, and we'll get to all of that. But Dalton, initial reactions, what did you think?
It's a weird one to process, this episode, because whenever we've had a character with a big death, even though we knew it was coming, we're like, oh my God, he's gone. Well, guess what? He's back in 2 days. He's not gone. He's on the next episode. Like, spoiler alert. So it's really weird, right? Yeah. It's like, okay, he's gone, but not really. And I agree with Kate completely. We've been waiting to find out for so long. We thought we were going to find out last year. A lot of people got very upset when they seemed to tease that we were going to find out, and then we didn't. It's been stretched out and stretched out. I feel that it's that it was time to learn the response, and we did. And they do this thing that we'll talk a little more about in our discussion about how they go big and small at the same time. This Is Us always does that. They go big, and then they have small moments as well, which is what they did here with the death.
Their biggest character died, and a little lizard died as well.
I know.
So, big and small. Kristen, your initial reactions, what did you make of this? Because we were anticipating this possibly happening, but people didn't want to get their hopes up because they were worried that they wouldn't come through with the actual death and it would be one giant tease.
Exactly.
But they came through. They delivered.
They did. And in fact, during the episode, I found myself, really rooting for Jack to get out of the house. Like, I know that he died. And yet I'm still like, oh, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. So even though I knew what was going to happen, it was still so suspenseful and moving, and I had hope up until the very last second that things were going to turn out okay because I really wanted them to.
We all did. It was a real social media event. More than 200,000 tweets last night alone, and people on Twitter had a lot of reactions to this episode. At Beth's the One tweets, if Jack dies at the hospital of smoke inhalation, I'm suing.
I mean, emotional distress. I feel like they have grounds for that.
No, I mean, it's sort of like when Derek Shepherd died because he didn't get the CT scan. I think we were all watching, the minute he was in the hospital and he kind of coughed a little bit, I'm like, you're going to intubate him, right? Like, surely there is some protocol that should be followed here. And actually, on Twitter, a lot of people were tweeting, like, medical professionals were like, this is not good. They should be, like, doing a chest scan. There's all sorts of stuff that they should be doing for him that they're not doing. And I just, the anxiety started to rise from that moment.
I'll give a shout out to our own Dan Sneerson, who spoke to Milo last night. And Milo said something very interesting in that there were a lot more scenes they filmed of him coughing and sort of having trouble speaking and wheezing a little bit. And then in the editing process, they took that all out.
Really?
At least the vast majority of it, because they didn't want to tip off too much what was going to happen.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point.
But all the more reason, if he'd been really super coughing and wheezing, like, I think we need to never again have a scene of Kate blaming herself for Jack's death, because, like, it's whatever intern was on duty that night and, like, didn't,
I do think it's a mark of a good show, how angry. If you get angry at a show, like the viewer threatening to sue, like that's, that it's a good show if you want to sue them.
It's true, and people have visceral reactions to the show. One of the most amazing moments I thought of this episode was seeing Jack emerge from the house, because Kate, as you mentioned, there was a feeling that he might have been engulfed by the flames. What was your initial reaction when you saw Jack emerge alive with the dog?
I really thought the dog was going to run out just by itself. I was going to be so angry. I was ready to scream at the TV, like, that dog. But when he came out, looking like a hero, it was even more sort of understandable why, some of the characters call him Saint Jack. Beth makes that sort of derisive note about it, but he really was. He was like a superhero.
Yeah.
Was a superhero.
This is us, and we'll talk more about this with some of the stuff that happens near the end of the episode, but they love to do misdirections. They love, there's nothing to show, and it's great, but it's also kind of infuriating sometimes. We'll talk about it later. Gotcha!
Right.
They love to gotcha. This goes all the way back to the pilot episode. Think about it. The three kids, gotcha! It's not
Right.
taking place now.
Right.
And they've been leading
But
us to
Dalton,
believe...
you don't sound like you're a fan of the gotcha.
I think that they go to that well too much.
Okay.
I think individually when they do it, it's good, but every week, just think about the very last episode.
Right.
Oh, you think they're going to move into this house, this other couple? Say, gotcha! Every freaking time.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Yeah. No, and how about the fact that I'd been saying all along, like, oh no, he dies in a fire because of the crappy wiring that he's. Remember all those like weird, like blackout scenes, and he's in the basement
Yep.
rewiring that panel, and I was like, oh well, this clearly.
Right.
This is
Yep.
going to go down, and then when
Crock-pot, gotcha.
Crock-pot got me.
All right, well, people online had a lot of opinions. Dream Bean wrote, Jack Pearson saved his entire family, including the dog, and some important family things. What about you? Okay, yeah, I felt like a slacker watching him emerge from the house. And Alexander Gold tweeted, I would have never forgiven This Is Us if they killed Jack and the dog at the same time. People were very invested in having Jack and the dog live. Do you think all the blame for Jack going back inside, however, should lie on Kate's shoulders? Because she talked about feeling so consumed with guilt for so many years.
No.
No.
He's getting photo albums.
Yeah.
I mean, what is he doing? Again, all those mementos. I know it's a nice moment, but that's clearly not on her because he didn't just get the dog. He got all that other stuff as well.
And he made the decision as an adult to go in and get the dog. He could have said, I'm sorry, honey, we're just, it's more important that we stay safe. But, she feels the guilt, and that makes sense because she feels that he did it because he couldn't bear to let her down.
Right.
And I think all the blame should be on like Pittsburgh Memorial Hospital or whatever the hospital they went to, because I mean, it really does make me wonder. I guess we're never going to see a flash forward that's all about the malpractice lawsuit they file against the hospital, because at some point has no one sat Kate down to say like, sweetie, he died from smoke inhalation that wasn't treated at the hospital by the doctors who didn't recognize that he was in distress or that his lungs weren't working or that his heart was failing. Like, there were whole teams of medical professionals who couldn't save this man. I don't
love
know
that
why
Kate's
Kate is
like,
beating herself
gotcha,
up.
litigation.
Yes, seriously.
The twist was especially heartbreaking because the family really felt that they'd gotten away unscathed. Rebecca even told Kate it's just a house before sending the kids to Miguel's. How tough was that moment for you all to watch? Because again, we thought they were in the clear. We thought they were safe.
Yeah, they gotcha'd their own family. I mean, they gotcha'd the kids, they gotcha'd everyone. It's all going to be good. Super Bowl's on. I'm eating a Mars bar. What could be wrong with that? I mean, the thing that I like about it is in the way that they wrote it and delivered it was that is the way a lot of times we learn about deaths is when you're out on a jog or at the it's not in this grand huge style all the time of running into the building and not coming out.
Right.
This is how you learn about it, and so the fact that she thinks everything's okay and then gets that news was pretty devastating and played as we'll talk about more beautifully by Mandy Moore.
This episode was tough for a lot of people. At Gay at Home Dad tweeted, not emotionally prepared to see how Jack dies. We weren't prepared either at Gay at Home Dad.
Went all caps on that one.
He went all caps on that one. Not emotionally prepared. But we have to talk about it. So let's move on to Rebecca and Jack's final interaction in the hospital. Oh, what's the impact of having this small, subtle moment at the end?
It's nice, but you knew the second she left that room that was done.
Yep.
You knew
did?
it. Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
they just said nice things to each other,
Yes.
so now he must die.
That's exactly right. When he stops her as she's walking out and then lets her go.
That's it. The
It's
Columbo
over.
moment. Yeah.
It was
But
done.
Kristen, here's the question. Do you think he knew? Did Jack, the character, know that he was going to die?
No, I don't think he did, but I think what it exemplified with this show is that, the idea that you never know when it's going to be the last time that you speak to someone. You never know when, sort of like what Dalton was saying, you never really know when you're going to lose somebody who's important to you. So And that's what they're, Mandy Moore's character keeps looking back to, that this was the last moment she had with him. So it sort of underscores the whole theme of the show, which is like you have to treasure every moment you have with your family, even though sometimes you want to murder them or they're teasing you about blocking the TV.
Oh, they're playing gotcha with your emotions. All right. Well, Rebecca leaves to call the kids, and unbeknownst to her, Jack is crashing. The doctors come up to Rebecca right after she buys a candy bar to tell her the shocking news. Take a look at this.
Do you mind if I have some of this? I'm so hungry.
Mrs. Pearson, one of the complications of smoke inhalation is that it puts a terrible stress on the lungs and therefore the heart. Your husband went into cardiac arrest. It was catastrophic, and I'm afraid we've lost him.
She can't comprehend what has just happened. Could you comprehend what had just happened? Did you think that that was going to play out the way that it did? To have it just smack her in the face in that way?
Yeah, I think that the shock of what's happening, not just a death, but you think he's dead. Oh, wait, no, he's back. Now he's okay. Now we're joking. Now I'm calling, and now he's dead. So the shock, I buy it. I buy the candy bar bite. Like, that's the question. Do you buy that moment? I actually do buy it.
Right.
I don't know how to process. I'm in my own sort of weird thoughts now. This can't be real. So I thought she played that great. Kristen and I were just saying, Bill Irwin, the actor. I mean, if you can't get Major Dad back in there in the hospital, go for Bill Irwin. They always have great people in those smaller roles. And I thought it was a beautiful scene with the two of them.
And you could really tell just from the second he walked in and he said, Mrs. Pearson, like the look on his face, you knew something bad was going to happen. And I think the candy bar makes sense because she's trying to hold on to this moment of normalcy, like everything's fine, I'm just going to eat my Mars bar.
Yeah, the one last moment of normalcy before her entire life is upended.
Yeah.
Sylvia Bell tweeted, "I want every doctor who told Jack he would be okay fired."
Kate's point.
Me too.
Sylvia Bell, aka Kate. So Rebecca goes in to see Jack, totally in denial, and has a major breakdown. How amazing was Mandy Moore in this scene and in this overall episode? I mean, the look on her face alone during that moment. Emmy nomination right there for that facial
I think
expression.
it's really interesting because we've all been focused on Jack this episode. It's really a Mandy Moore episode. It's not a Milo episode. I mean, it's a Mandy Moore episode.
Yes, it is.
And she's fantastic in it.
Yeah, I think this was really a tour de force for her. You know, she still, I feel like in Hollywood, lingers a little bit with this residue of her teen pop star past and doesn't get taken quite as seriously as she maybe should as an actress. And I think people would be hard-pressed to continue to paint her with that brush after this scene because she just did a tremendous job.
Kristen, I thought this episode for her was a real announcement.
It really was. I mean, this whole thing is her Emmy submission. Everyone, in the main cast got a showcase moment, at least one in this episode, but she had so many. And like you said, when she sees his body and sort of the roadmap of emotions that goes through her face as she's just looking at him, it's incredible. So yeah, I think she just needs to submit this now for Emmys next year, and she should be fine.
Pick out a dress.
Yeah.
Start on her speech.
Yeah.
Mandy Moore's castmates actually praised her performance online too. Justin Hartley tweeted, "Mandy Moore, you are incredible." And Sterling K. Brown wrote, "Beyond words, Mandy Moore, beyond words." Beyond words. Beyond words.
Beyond words.
Beyond words. Okay, there's also a strong scene where Rebecca tells Miguel what happened. She stops him from breaking down in front of her because she wanted to stay strong before telling her kids, and in her words, ruining their lives. That moment to me was also very powerful. What was your initial reaction,
Well,
Kate?
it's just all the more reason to keep loving Rebecca because it's such a kick-ass moment after such a devastating one to then pivot and sort of be this pillar of strength and to tell, the guy who's supposed to ostensibly be the stronger one, like, dude, take a walk around the block and pull it together.
Yeah, man up.
Because I have to go in there now and ruin my kids' lives. I mean, that was just, I would say, really almost as powerful as the hospital scene.
And it was interesting because that scene could have been played really for true heightened emotion, and it could have gone a little saccharine. But the fact that they had her pull back and be so strong, I thought was an interesting choice. What do you think, Kristen Dalton?
I do think that you might have expected that she would cry on his shoulder because eventually she does end up marrying Miguel, but you know, it proves what a strong mom she's always been, that the first thing she has to think about is, I can't worry about how I feel, I can't worry about how anybody else feels, I have to take care of my kids. And, you know, Miguel, you're just going to have to cope on your own.
Yeah.
And yeah, she ruled in that moment.
They always say, like, you know, you watch certain shows and certain moments differently when you're a parent. And this is like one of those shows, clearly, and one of these moments, like, I cannot even imagine having to do this myself. But you put yourself in that position where you think when you have devastating news, you have to bring, like, I have to be strong for them. And so that's what I'm thinking as I watch that. Like, I could see that. You got to put your game face on, you know what I mean? And you got to just go in there and do it. And so I thought that was a great moment.
And then you could go outside and break down in the car. Yeah. All right, moving along. The present day storyline takes place 20 years after Jack's death on Super Bowl Sunday, and everyone had their traditions for the day. Let's talk about Kate first in the VCR plot line. Leah Catherine wrote, "Katie girl, you should have converted that VHS to a DVD in 2005. You were tempting fate with that one." Were you shocked that she didn't back up this precious video that she?
I still have VHSs. I still have.
I do too.
Dalton,
Dating myself.
Yeah,
I do. I got a box sitting up there. I do.
I even have a VCR.
I do too.
That will play.
Yeah,
them,
me
so.
too.
Yeah.
Really?
And I think that's part of her ritual. You know, she wants to do it, sort of watch the exact same moment as she always has, and so that she probably feels like it would be cheating or somehow, you know, she doesn't want to let go of this tape that her dad touched, that her dad made, you know, and so I think it's probably both that she just never got around to it, but also really wants to keep it as in its original form.
Yeah, you're right. It is her ritual, and it's her way of sort of paying penance and also processing. Toby ultimately helps save Kate the tape, and there's a really sweet interaction afterwards where she tells Toby she thought her life was ruined after Jack died until she met him. Take a look.
You never gave up on me, over and over again. Never gave up on me and made me believe in me. You know that you changed my life, that you saved my life. And oh my God, he would have loved you. Oh my God, I love you.
I love you too.
I love their love. I don't know if we call them Tate or Kobe.
Kobe,
to-
probably.
I love their love. This moment, though, for me was really interesting because it was almost as if she was saying that I'm going to transfer the responsibility for taking care of me to you now, and my dad would have loved you to come in and watch
That's
over
what he's
me.
always wanted, right? I mean, like, he got a little annoyed. We got pretty needy there for a while. He's getting mad at Kevin, like, I need to be her number one, not you. And it's like, back off, buddy. So, but this is what he's always wanted, is to be that rock for her. And he always felt she never let him be that rock, or her siblings never let him be that rock. So this is what he's wanted to be. So.
And meanwhile, I'm just going to own the fact that I'm something of a Kate hater. I guess that makes me
a cater.
I'm a cater. I'm a cater.
Wait, how can you hate Kate?
Oh,
Kate.
We don't have enough time, but I would like her to take care of herself, for starters. That would be really great. I also thought her hissy fit over the video maybe being on the cloud was just smacked of such ingratitude and like, no, I think the words you're looking for are thank you.
Thank you.
And she got there eventually, but I just generally find her to be a just self-pitying, professional victim, hissy fit, tantrum throwing brat half the time, and she drives me up the wall, which is actually a testament to Chrissy Metz and I think the amazing performance she's giving, because she is such a complicated, like, people love her, people want to wrap her up and hug her, and then other people like get incredibly frustrated with her
and want to slap her.
want her to do better. I want her to do better than she's doing. I want her, you know, to pull it together a little bit more than this.
I think the thing with
Dalton,
Kate,
yeah, jump in there because
well, no, I think what's interesting.
Kate, let us know how she feels about Kate.
I've had frustrations with the way Kate has been written, but my frustrations have always been, and this is sort of signaling somewhat what Kate is talking about, Kate is talking about, as well as that I felt I've wanted to see her I want to see her thriving in work or thriving in other areas of her life that we never see. She's obviously just a bundle of insecurities.
Right.
I understand that,
But you know where they're coming from.
Right, and those are real.
And they're plausible.
Right, yeah, they are totally plausible. That's the
Okay.
thing, so I don't want to discount those. We've had callers on my radio show that called and said, I suffer through these same insecurities, so I don't want to discount that at all. And that's fine. I would like to see other dimensions as well.
Okay.
I want to see more. I want to see different things in addition to that. And the writers have not necessarily shown us that.
All right. They have time.
I agree.
They have time.
Yeah, they do.
They do.
Okay.
I hope that with letting go of the tape or allowing it to be on the cloud, as she puts it, that this is maybe the first step for her to really let go and start. And maybe we can see her start taking up the singing again and like working on her voice, because she was just getting to that point where she was going to work hard and try to make a career of that.
That's true. Okay, on Super Bowl Sunday, Rebecca's tradition, even years after Jack's death, is to make his favorite lasagna and eat it alone while watching the game. What do you guys make of this tradition?
I think it speaks to how Rebecca has lived her life since he died, which is life goes on. She knows that he wouldn't want her to wallow. He wouldn't want her to stop living her life. So she's doing this thing to honor him, but she's still watching the game as he would. She's moved on and gotten married again.
But Miguel gives her space.
But Miguel gives her space, so she's able to, sort of honor their tradition and move forward in that way without wallowing.
Let's get into the Miguel
Let's
thing.
talk about Miguel,
let's
Dalton.
Just do it. Let's go.
Dalton, I saw the M form on your lips, and I was like, he's ready to go there. Okay, let's talk about Miguel. He's problematic, Dalton.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think he's as problematic as you and a lot of other people do think. My radio host hates Miguel. I know you're not necessarily a fan. We get callers. And I don't really get it as much.
What don't you get?
I think he's, I understand it's weird. They were best friends, and he's married his best friend's girl. I don't know if there's some weird guy code in there or something about like when the guy's deceased.
It's called you don't marry your best friend.
It was decades later. It was decades later. This woman's alone. He's alone. They have a history, and he's been nothing but respectful to her and the kids.
And Jack's memory.
Right, in Jack's memory. And Kevin's been a brat to him the entire time. He sits there and he takes it. But I know a lot of people have a big problem with him. Why don't you like Miguel? Why do you hate Miguel?
I just felt like he was sort of in the corner, creeping on her, waiting for Jack to perish, and he's like, I'm gonna swoop in and get the girl.
I'm gonna swoop in by waiting decades.
Listen, he played.
Sending a Facebook
it was a long game. It was a long game, Kate.
That's one hell of a long game.
I don't feel like Miguel's that smart that he could
really don't think
a long
he had
game.
like a 15-year long game in him. I just don't think he had it.
I don't know. Maybe it's just my own girl code. I wouldn't do that, and I don't like that the character Miguel has done that. But that's just me.
I hope there's an outtake somewhere in that scene where Kate's like, Jack's dead, and Miguel just goes, all right.
Bow, chicka, bow, bow. Right.
I'll hit you up in 15 years.
Exactly.
But it's fascinating to see that relationship that viewers have, because it's valid. I know a lot of people feel the way you feel, Lola. And people, because they love, it's because people love Jack so much.
And I don't have a problem with Rebecca moving on. I don't want her to be eating lasagna by herself, pining for her dead husband. I just think Miguel was just a little too close to home for me. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, well, you're not alone. I know a lot of people. Where do you stand on this, Kristen?
You've been
You're trying
quiet,
to play
Kristen.
both sides here.
Can't be Switzerland on this.
I feel like Miguel is, he's kind of boring, but he seems like a decent second husband for Rebecca. And I also think that anybody she married, we wouldn't like that person, because especially because we still see moments of Jack and Rebecca together in the past, and so we see their love alive. I feel like he's a perfectly nice companion for her.
I actually think you're discounting one of the advantages of Miguel, which is he's on the team of Saint Jack as well.
Yes.
Some stranger might be like, what the hell with this guy? He can't have been that amazing. But what you saw a few episodes in the rehab episode, where all the others are sitting at the bar talking, and they all kind of start to like ding Jack a little bit. Toby and Beth are like, oh, Saint Jack. And Miguel's the one who's like, hold up, now you're getting into my no-fly zone. Like, he was a saint, and he was amazing.
That's a good point.
And so the beauty of Miguel is you have a second husband who never doubts for a minute or questions for a second that Jack was the man. He respects it, he knows it, he gets it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have that if, like, she married Bill Jones. That's why it has to be Miguel. Come
Okay,
on over.
I'm convinced. I'm actually convinced. I'm going to hop on that side of the. That was very convincing, Kate. All right, moving on. Kevin normally avoids thinking about his father on Super Bowl Sunday, but in this episode, he goes to Jack's tree and talks to his father. You guys, what do you think of this scene? He actually has a heart-to-heart with a tree.
I think Kevin has been the most problematic character on the show. I just going to say it, that I think that the storylines.
Dalton. Okay, so you
I've
think
got
Kate's
Kate.
the problem.
That's my
You think
problematic
Kevin's
one.
the problem.
I just don't. I don't think they've cracked the code on that character. I didn't want to see him going to rehab and I just felt that whole arc was just, we've seen that a million times on a million shows. I didn't find it very interesting. I thought the episode where they all where it ended up was interesting, but I don't think the journey was worth the destination. I don't get very emotional watching the Kevin scenes. I just don't. I don't know what it is, but it just doesn't work for me.
I did like that we finally really understood the guilt he has in terms of like his last words to him were, "I hate you," and you know that he wasn't there, and he really feels so guilty that he wasn't there. Even though, let's be honest, if he had been there, he couldn't have helped because he was on crutches. His leg was,
Yeah, he might have actually really
screwed things up.
like burned to a crisp.
Yeah. So,
Well, what impact do you think him not being there had on his life and the trajectory of his life?
Huge.
Yeah.
I think it's his thing. You know, Kate's got the I sent him back in for the dog. Kevin's got the I wasn't there to A, to help, and B, I wasn't there to say goodbye. I wasn't there. My final words to him were argumentative and hateful and in the heat of the moment, and I think that haunts him completely.
It's true. All right, there was talk in this episode of Jack always sending Rebecca a laugh on Super Bowl Sunday. And Sarah tweeted, Jack Pearson is still with them after all these years, and that is incredibly sad, but beautiful. In this episode, Rebecca was sad that she didn't get this year's laugh, but then on a call between her and Kevin, this happened. Take a look.
Can I be really honest?
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'm at the right tree.
Do you see? Do you see what I mean this year? This year, he sent me you. This year, he sent me you.
So she got her lasagna and she got her laugh.
and Kevin got the sense that he was finally, you know, he always felt second best to Randall, and that he was never the one who she loved the most. And here he was the one delivering the laugh for her. So he was the first son in a way in this moment. So even though you're not feeling it, Dalton.
Yeah,
Not
Dalton, your
feeling it.
face. Yeah.
He's
Did
talking
you
to
feel
a
like
tree. It's just sort of, I don't know. I feel like they just, my problem with the Kevin characters, I feel like they haven't done anything original with this character. I feel like everything I see from him is something we've seen on shows before.
Right.
And I feel like it's just sort of not very three-dimensional. It's not, I don't know what the issue is, but I just feel, you know, that they need to work a little harder with him.
What do you think they could do to beef up Kevin?
I don't know. Well, they tried to. They tried. That's why they gave him the whole. I feel like, listen, Chrissy Metz was getting raves. Sterling K. Brown's getting raves. Everyone loves Jack
And
and Rebecca.
awards.
And let's be honest. The Kevin character, the Justin Hartley thing, was not getting raves last season. So they tried to give him this whole pill popping background and story, but that's something, like I said, which didn't feel unique.
Right.
And you could telegraph exactly the way all of a sudden I got a little bit of some stubble and my tie's a little askew now. And, you know, it's
And
like,
I'm
oh,
popping
okay.
pills.
Yeah, it's just, we've done all that before. So they tried this season, it didn't work. So they need to try again.
All right, well, a character that works, Randall. Let's talk about Randall. He always celebrates on Super Bowl Sunday because it was Jack's favorite day. Did you think this celebration was going to last? I did
Hell
not.
to the no.
No,
Hell to the
not
no.
once.
Not even
Best
close.
shoe and
To
Mr.
quote
McGiggle.
Whitney Houston, hell to the no, Dalton
Hell
Rock.
to the no. That
I
was,
mean, Beth was the one, she knew it was not going to go well. Like, are you really sure we want to do this
Yeah.
party right now? There's a lot going on. And she is always the voice of reason, and she knows what's up. And so she was the foreshadowing.
Yeah.
And when Mr. McGiggles went missing, that was sort of a sign that things were going to go downhill from there, right?
Yeah.
But has this show, whenever people have ever been happy on this show, has there not been like just something terrible right around the corner? It's the Jack and Rebecca thing in the hospital, and she leaves the room, and then
Right.
you know, anytime anyone gets happy, and especially too happy,
Yeah.
you know what's coming next.
It's a soap
You
opera.
know, his speech, the eulogy for Mr. McGiggles was really a eulogy for his father. And he talked about sudden death and how it's like lightning ripping through your stomach. I thought that scene in particular was extremely poignant, probably one of the most poignant of the entire episode. What did you make of that moment? He had a lot to do in a little bit of time.
It's working through his issues, you know, that he's tried to bury and cover up. That's what it is. Like, some people lay out their feelings bare, and Randall's a guy, we've seen it before, it's all pent up, and then he cracks. And this wasn't as dramatic as the time he's like hovering under his desk, but it's him working through his issues that he's tried to just put on a smile and not worry about.
Randall's become a verb, you know, don't Randall out on me. Right?
Exactly.
And he celebrates Super Bowl because he says it's his dad's favorite holiday or favorite event, but it's also a little bit of avoidance for him. He's trying to just throw some happy on top of it so he doesn't have to deal with the sad. And this Mr. McGiggles wouldn't let that happen this year.
Let that happen. He was not giggling by the end of that episode, was he?
Not giggling.
Not giggling at all. All right, we also had another big surprise in the episode. A lot of us thought the foster boy was going to live with Randall's family, but twist, that was actually in the future. How surprised were you to see old Randall, guys?
Oh, I was so relieved. I'll tell you what, because the minute he gave his daughter Tess the whole, you know, you're going to live with me until you're 25, and I'm going to come have dinner with you once a week in your office, I was like, shit, Randall's dead. Ooh, sorry for my language, but I was like, Randall's dead. Randall's dead. Because I thought we've just gotten over the hurdle of Jack's death, and we are going to have this beautiful, powerful speech where he's foreshadowing the long, happy life he intends to have with his precious daughter, who's his number one. And I just thought, oh no, we are seeing Kate and Jack all over again, and we're going to get some flash forward where grown-up Tess is going to like lovingly like touch an urn or a gravestone or a thing, and that is going to be what it leaves us with, which is that at some point now we have to worry about Randall's death. So
but we
when
weren't left
old
with
man
that,
Randall walked into that visiting foster care room, I almost wept tears of joy. I was so happy to see that horrible sprayed on silver spray paint hair on Randall, to see that he has grown old.
Dalton, Kristen, when old man Randall walked through the door, what were your initial reactions? I mean, it does open up the entire universe of This Is Us. Now we can flash forward to the future. We know that Tess is a social worker.
Here's my concern.
Uh-oh.
First off, gotcha! Secondly, the way I felt about This Is Us is I love the characters so much, and I love the performances so much. And they're characters that, while we may not love every single character, we love the family, and we generally like to see what's going to happen with them. I worried was they were playing out that the first season and a half, they kept like teasing clues to Jack's death. Like, remember the clues? Why is young Kevin had his leg broken? And what's the house and the dog? And and I was like, you know what? We don't need to be lost. Let's just enjoy the characters, and we don't need the gimmicks.
And you don't mean literally lost. You mean lost the show. Correct.
I was like, we don't need gimmicks. We don't need stunts. Like, you know, you started off your entire show with a stunt and a gimmick, and it worked. But let's now move past this. So we finally get through the Jack death after a year and a half, and all of a sudden they throw another sort of gotcha potential stunt gimmick at us. And it's fine, but I don't need another mystery. Like, I don't need another clues leading to the
But there is no mystery here. How does she become a social? Like, ooh, I'll be looking for the clues when she applies to the Columbia School of Social Work. Like, it's not really.
Well, it's like they're literally doing what Lost did with flash forwards, if that's what they do. It's literally the Lost device.
But that's a good question. That's a big if. Do you think they will explore the future This Is Us world? Really, Kristen?
I think they have to now. I mean, it would be weird if they just showed this one. And this was the waterworks moment for me for some reason. You know, this is where I really started crying. See that Tess became a social worker, and sort of that her parents had instilled this, you know, love in her of, you know, helping kids who need it.
Paying it forward.
But I agree, you know, I do wonder what is the next Jack's death for This Is Us, because they have built.
It's not Tess as a social worker.
No, it's definitely
Well,
not.
Mandy Moore. How old will Mandy Moore be in the future? How old can they age her?
It's all built on stunts, gimmicks, and mysteries. And that's fine.
And yet you like the show.
I do.
You're like, wow.
You love the show.
I like the show, but it drives me crazy. I love and hate it at the same time. There's certain things about it I love so much, and then, I mean, it's the least subtle show in the history of television, let's be honest, in certain ways. Like, they literally use a hammer to kill a fly. But I love things about it, but then they just sometimes, they're not satisfied with that. They have to try and put in these gimmicks. And I worry that when you do it so much that the longevity of your product is compromised.
Dalton, did you cry last night?
I never cry. I'm a robot. I'm a cyborg. I never cry.
You
No.
never cry.
On the inside, look.
On the inside. Kristen, Kate, tears last night?
Absolutely cried at that social worker moment.
Yeah.
Got a little misty other places, but that was the real.
And Mandy Moore in the hospital.
Yeah.
So I started early and often. Like I probably started tearing up when I saw that the dog made it out. I was like, okay, I knew the dog made it out, but I was still just so scared. Like, what if this is a gotcha and that dog that they're petting in the house is Miguel's dog that looks a lot like I probably started with the dog and then just.
It was a really emotional night. I mean, I watched the Super Bowl and that was emotional. And then to go straight to This Is Us, I was like, I cannot process all of this emotion. It's too much.
This is maybe a little too inside baseball, but what's
Okay.
interesting is the way they start the episode. When you have a show that's airing after the Super Bowl and you have 100 million people watching, so 90% of them don't watch the show, have not watched the show that's after it, you have to draw them right in.
Right.
This is why Alias infamously put Jennifer Garner in all lingerie in the first 10 seconds of the Alias post-Super Bowl episode. That's why the fire, literally 5 seconds of the episode, it's the biggest action sequence in This Is Us history. It was not an accident. That was specifically done because it aired right after the Super Bowl and they want people to keep watching.
Very smart observation. And that was a riveting 6 minutes of television.
yeah.
So, you know, viewers hung around for that. Very smart, very smart. That's why you get paid the
why I
big
covered
bucks, Dalton. All right, before we go, let's talk about how Jack and, of course, Milo Ventimiglia is not actually gone from the series. Milo tweeted, just so everyone knows it, Jack Pearson lives in all of our hearts. He's you, he's me, he's us. Thank you all for supporting our show. We love you all, and this isn't the end of Jack. Stay tuned. So I'm curious, panel, what lingering questions do you have about Jack Pearson's evolution, his story? What more do you want to know about him?
I hope his brother's alive. Like, I'm really hoping his brother is, like, alive and for some reason, you know, has decided that it's best for his brother's widow and kids if he stays far away, and so he's a hermit living somewhere, and somebody's going to track him down.
And there's the example you asked, what mysteries and clues? Yeah. There you go. We got the mystery of the brother, that clue that they dropped like at the beginning of the season. So he's clearly going to come into play. And hopefully it won't take 3 years of dropping hints and clues for it to happen. But yeah, that's the big one, is the brother.
So you're interested in the brother as well?
Absolutely. I want to see how it plays out and whether he's still around, and I imagine he is, and he's going to show up at some point, I guess. But why isn't he around now? Because we're not seeing him in the present. So.
Kristen, really quickly, what would you like to see? Any more about Jack?
Most of the stuff I want to know about Jack is sort of how people cope after he dies. I want to see the funeral, which is obviously coming up, and I want to see how Rebecca deals with, you know, moving on in terms of romantically. But yeah, I feel like we'll still be seeing plenty of Jack.
Yeah.
All right, Kristen, you mentioned the funeral. There's another new episode tomorrow night focusing on Jack's funeral. Series creator Dan Fogelman wrote before the episode aired, a thought on tonight. Our show was never just about what happened to Jack, but these next 2 episodes are. It was a defining moment for this family, and we will experience and feel this with them. The performances are extraordinary. Our cast is insane. And Sterling K. Brown tweeted, wow. Okay, so there's just 2 days to recover before a new episode. Okay. Are you all emotionally ready for another episode? I have not recovered. Kate.
I'm ready.
You're ready.
Because I feel like I've gotten over a hurdle now that everything was building up to, like, how exactly does he die, and can everybody in all the various timelines know that he's dead and gone? And so I'm ready actually for something that's a little bit of forward momentum now and starts moving the show away from this now solved mystery and towards whatever the next seasons are going to bring.
Dalton, who cries on the inside.
Yes, on the
Are
inside.
you ready?
Well, it's interesting. It'll be a double dose for a lot of people who probably didn't watch it last night. It ended close to midnight on the East Coast. I think a lot of people went to bed. We'll watch it tonight. So spoilers, sorry. But so they're going to get a double dose of it. And this is the way it works with Super Bowl episode. It's good. I kind of agree with Kate. We've closed that chapter.
Right.
I mean, we'll still be closing with the funeral, but we're moving on now, and I think the time was right to do that.
And Kristen, really quickly before we
I
say
think it'll be
goodbye.
cathartic to see the funeral. We still have a lot of tears to cry, and so we can get them out on Tuesday night and then move on.
Well, you guys have been fantastic. No tears here, just tears of joy. Thank you so much for being here and talking This Is Us. It was an emotional one, but we got through it. We got through it, gang. Everyone have a nice day.